Well, Sophia was our oldest daughter.
She had these gorgeous, huge, fat cheeks, and she was a good sleeper, and she was a good eater.
I didn't know anything, was out of the normal. In fact, she was developing typical from my perspective.
And right around somewhere between 15 to 18 months, we didn't hear her voice as much. She started signing please for everything. And that motion, it just became the language for everything. And as she got to be about 2 years old, I remember we took her home from her 2-year appointment, and I don't know, it just seemed like she was fading away. My mother and I took her in to a specialist, and it was the hardest visit I've ever had in my entire life. Harder than any other visit I've ever had. It was like the world of watching Sophia had been in this kaleidoscope of not quite sure what's going on, why is something different? And when this other woman worked with my daughter, she was asking her to do things, she was asking her to respond, things that a typical 2-year-old who just turned 2 should be able to do. It was like that kaleidoscope just turned and went into perfect focus of how wrong things were. And we went and saw some specialists at Stanford, and during their makeup, the geneticist said that he wanted to do a more extensive test, and it came back positive for Rett syndrome.
And they said, well, she's not going to feed herself, and she's not going to swing, and she's might end up in a wheelchair. And I turned and I said, but she feeds herself cereal now. She uses a spoon in the morning, and swinging's her favorite thing. She goes wee on the swing, and she loves it. What do you mean? And they said, well, we're really sorry, but she's going to regress. She might end up on a feeding tube, and she may have a shortened life.
She has an atypical variant, which means she's able to retain a little bit of her speech. Most of the girls, they regress and it's gone.
When they told us that she had this atypical Rett syndrome, and there's a better prognosis than a typical Rett syndrome case, it started to feel like the key was fitting in the lock. It made sense that Sophie could do things she wasn't supposed to do with Rett syndrome, and yet she was not doing things she should do if she was typical. It started to make some sense. And again, then I shifted to, well, I don't like this diagnosis because it's incurable. And the doctor said, that's not true.
There's work right now in progress that could change this disorder and others immensely. Because if we can discover what is at the root and change the future of Rett syndrome, it affects all other neurological disorders, autism, Parkinson's, Huntington's disease, many other neurological disorders. We pray we can help schizophrenia. I mean, it just opens so many doors.
Please join me in donating as much as you can today and help girls just like Sophia live a full, natural, and beautiful life that she was always meant to have.
I hope that you too can give so that my child will play with yours very soon.
We think that this is a reversible disorder. So in 2007, Adrian Bird at the University of Edinburgh was able, through genetic trickery, it's genetic engineering, he was able to develop an animal model of Rett syndrome that basically had this genetic on-off switch inserted in its DNA, so that if you kept the switch in the off position, so that the MECP2 gene was turned off and it wasn't making its protein, the animal would develop all of the symptoms that we see in the children. But then at will, the switch could be flipped and the MECP2 gene is turned on, it starts to make its protein, and as the protein levels normalize over a 4-week period, remarkably, the symptoms go away.
Here are animals that look far gone and hopelessly beyond the pale, and by just simply putting back the missing bit, they're fixed. I think there are grounds to be optimistic. How long it'll take is another matter.